Hello and welcome once again to Japan Expert Insights. As always, Maya Matsuoka from
Hi.
Tokyo is in the
Yes.
house. And Ron Reid Jr. will be our guest today, also known as Ron. We'll get into that in a minute, why he is Ron. We've been calling him Ron. It's fantastic. How you doing, Ron?
Good. How are you both doing?
Doing excellent. So if you're watching this now, we are recorded for this week's episode. So, but even still, we'd like to give people a minute or so to catch up and log in. So to let everyone know, Rules of Living is now available on demand. Our good friend of the show, Jeffrey Rowe, he is he's sending links to everybody on Mirror's Pictures where you can actually download or rent the film. And for $25, you can actually get a copy of the film and they send you some digital stuff. I went ahead and paid the $25 because I want to support people in Japan. And it's, check it out. I mean, I get emotional because I recently saw Rental Family and I've seen Rules of Living and these American or Canadian or just these hybrids of entertainment that we've seen. Shogun Begars being the huge example from last year. But these pocket indie films that are showing up are just so wonderful. I need to see Renoir, Jason Gray, another friend of the show, his film. I'm hoping to catch that soon. I'm just saying, if you guys are out there and what happens, right? You get bored of your Netflix queue, you get bored of your Prime queue, you're tired of seeing the same old crap. Well, let me tell you something. There's a whole wonderful world of indie films set in Japan. Start with Rules of Living, start with Rental Family. That's not available on demand yet, but it will be eventually. It's actually performing a little better than expected at the box office. So that's always a nice thing to see. And, just make sure that you're supporting the people that are doing the really hard work. Speaking of the people who are doing the really hard work, we have one of them on today, Ron Reid Jr.
Oh, now, that's me. Okay.
That's you, Ron. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Ron, before we get into real quick, what's interesting about you is, and we're going to talk about this momentarily, about the idea of vertical filmmaking, verticals. And it's so fascinating. Now, we've had a lot of people on this program who have done, films. They've produced films. We've had actresses. We've had producers. We've had actors. We've had a lot of different people. This is one of our first real episodes where we're moving into new territory. And we're getting into the online world, which is very exciting because the thing about Japan, Showtime at Japan Expert Insights, it's not just about movies and TV shows, although we cover that a lot. And we haven't even covered any anime yet. And we're almost a year into this show, but we haven't even done anime.
Not yet.
But it's time to move into the frontier, the Wild West, which is, how do you make something like this on your phone, putting something on your phone, engaging. And that's why we got Ron here on the show. Ron found us. So Ron, thank you for reaching out.
Yeah. Basically, Jeffrey was a staunch supporter of your show, and he put the feelers out everywhere. You must watch this show, not because I'm in it, but because it's worth watching. And he used an excellent platform, LinkedIn, and it does get the eyes and ears of the industry here. So I did watch it, and I saw. I've talked to Jeffrey, and he's really, I guess, at the forefront of indie stuff, and him and I talked a little bit during TIFF, and it's a very small community here in Japan for foreigners that are making films, and it's also great you can use the opportunity to kind of network with each other. So I think he is at the forefront of what's happening in the indie world, but that is more for film. And I guess what I'm going to be talking about eventually with vertical films will be a little bit about the future. So if you can imagine, I'm from the future. And,
I like that. It sounds really good.
That's fantastic. Well, you certainly know how to make an entrance. I'm from the future. You should just lead with that. Ron from the future. Fantastic.
I'm going to have a color visor.
Right. Exactly. So now, just saying, because obviously Maya and I are not Japanese. I don't think, you're not Japanese either, but you live in Japan. How did you get there? What's your backstory?
Okay.
The man from the future. What's your backstory?
Yeah. So from the past, I had a lot of friends from Japan who kept visiting Toronto, where I'm from. And as they were visiting. At the same time, I was starting to teach a lot of Japanese. I think they just went in hand. So I was kind of in the Japanese community, both the Japanese Canadians that live there, who have the ancestry of being Japanese, and then also the visitors. So the visitors side, I also made inroads. So it was kind of an eventuality. I think everyone around me saw that I was coming to Japan except me last minute. So when I told my family, they already expected it. We had Japanese guests at our house. I was visiting these groups in Toronto. And basically, they're kind of support groups, like, you know, people that want to find jobs, people who hate their school. They kind of pool ideas when they have like these get-togethers. And some of them, you know, I would try to help them with English by teaching, but also I sent them out to different places to experience the really strong Canadian experience. And that even included going to church, which was very foreign for them. But in doing so, yeah, I just made a lot of friends. And when I had one film fest that I finished with called the Regent Park Film Festival, I messaged my Japanese friends and said, would be okay if I came to Japan? And what was supposed to be 3 months turned into something years. You know, I keep going back every year to mostly to Los Angeles, and then I go back to Vancouver or Toronto, and I try to shoot a film and bring it back to Japan. But what I was finding very quickly with technology, I don't need to go back as much. You could literally, I've seen it in Japan, people have actually hired people and crews to film something that they wanted to bring back overseas. So the technology is quite amazing. But somebody would literally say, I want to film this project. I'm not going to be there. And they hire each department as if they were back overseas. And they've actually been successful to finish projects here. So it's quite amazing.
Wow. So of course, it's funny you say supposed to be months, years. We hear this all the time. We're getting patterns in our show of like how people say, oh, I was supposed to be for a few months and I never left, you know? So obviously you said you had an interest in this in Japan and everyone knew you were going except you. Like, what was it in those early years that fascinated you, or what was it that kind of put your zeitgeist in this direction?
Yeah, my zeitgeist, really, I guess once I started interacting with Japanese, I mean, I had some of them as students. I was tutoring a lot of students, and it was quite easy. Before that, I was tutoring at a Korean school that had one Japanese student, so it was mostly Koreans. But it seemed it was easy to help the Japanese and Koreans because they don't formally teach English like where it's a second language that they could use daily. So Japan teaches just kind of communication. So when they come to Canada, it's really easy to just teach them idioms and just have natural language. And I think a friend of mine had given me some advice and said it would be an easy job for you if you taught the Japanese overseas. So I just put out some ads. I started getting students, and then slowly that built up to joining their small groups. Again, these are visitors that come to Toronto, and they just have these different like cliquey groups, like ones that have parties, ones that share resources. And I just met a number of people there. And sometimes I would bring my students there, but a lot of them already knew about these groups. And yeah, just one was really good and easy to make friends. And then that just kind of brought up my love for Japan. And the only interaction I had kind of with Japan is there was an antique shop in Toronto that was closing up, and they had a Japanese table. So that became our centerpiece in our home for, I think, about 8 years. So so I had craftsmanship in my home. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may say something here, I really appreciate that you're sharing your story, because it shows that you were very strategic about what you wanted to do eventually and what you wanted or where you wanted to get at the end, right? Because a lot of people, I think that, yeah, they have this idea, I want to go to Japan, for example, I want to live there, I want to work there, but they don't know what strategy to implement, how to build it, right? And when I say strategy, it sounds at business like very difficult to understand the term, but actually it's very simple. You communicate with as many people as possible. You communicate with the Japanese people who are around you, and you start from there. right? So, which is really good. I have seen Michael doing that, by the way. So, Michael, I don't visualize you, when I say that people don't know what to do, right?
Oh
So,
no, I mean I don't know what I'm doing. I think I fooled you all if you think I do, but I'm just guessing just like everyone else. So, I figured
but yeah,
goofed
but
my
it's,
way in.
yeah.
But yeah.
I can even give you something. Sorry, even further. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
One guy, Jason, he said a very strong statement about this kind of idea, Maya, where he said, if you come to Japan, regardless of your plan, don't come to Tokyo. It's the biggest city. His idea was, I guess, along the same lines. If you want to learn the culture, you can't do it in Tokyo so readily. Like for me, I'm able to stay in an English bubble and get by with my charm. But his idea is go to the countryside, go to a smaller city, engage with the people, and actually learn the language first. And I think there's some groups that do that. They have these kind of like, I forgot the name of the group, but they send teachers to the countrysides, and you just kind of stay in the countryside and learn. I tried to apply for that program, but I couldn't get in. But by the time I was closer to getting here, I'd already had Japanese plan my itinerary from Canada with maps. This was more going to church, Japanese churches, and thinking I can help. And we get a lot of misconceptions when we think we're going to come. We're going to show those Japanese how things are done, the old American way, or because by then I'm speaking like an American. But when you get here, if your hearts are open, I think it's an opportunity to connect to people. People help you regardless of where you land. But if you land in the countryside, grasp the language quickly, then go to the city. He said that was a better plan. And his views for that statement of don't go to Tokyo racked over 1 million views. And it's definitely, people were taking that, it's just shocking. Like, why not go to the biggest city? I want to go to America, go to New York, go to Chicago, go to LA. No, you want to see real America. You go to the rural parts, you go to the Idahos, you go to the Montanas, just to see what the real people are like, what values are at the heart of America. The same with Japan. A lot of people sorry, this is more longer than I thought.
No, it's okay. We got it.
The idea is like in Japan during the most important season, which is Obon in Japan, and at New Year's, a lot of people go to their small hometown. So the structure of Japan is set up where the real parts of family and togetherness are at people's hometowns. So if you go to a small hometown, which I did when I landed in Miyazaki, I think, and there were so many people there, and the people warned me, this isn't the normal amount of people. Everyone goes back. So if you follow the flow of how Japan's set up and you go to the small towns to start with, I think you'll get a better grasp of the identity of Japan. I don't think Tokyo, even Japanese will tell you, it's not the identity of Japanese people. It's the small towns. If you take that strategy, you learn the culture, you get an appreciation of it, and then you come to the city. In those steps, I think it's a lot better. I didn't follow those steps, but
yeah.
I studied Japanese when I first got here, so that really helped me.
It makes sense. And I would even say for many countries, I wouldn't even say just Japan. I know like my mom for all the years wanted to go to Ireland. She wanted to go back to the home country. She finally made it. But when she was in Dublin the first 2-3 days, she's like, okay, this is cool, but it's a big city. And when she discovered what she felt was the real Ireland was when she went to visit her friends, out in the fields, out in the green. And so there is something to be said about that. I think like it's funny because I come from Chicago and you're Toronto, so we're second city types, right? So and we're Midwest, and it was funny because I was having this conversation too with some people the other day. Where like a lot of times when Japanese people think about America, they come to do business in America. It's always like New York or LA, and then the middle gets forgotten about, and it's always kind of a shame because one of the things I love about Toronto, and I love Toronto, it's a wonderful place, and Chicago, living here, of course, is that we do seem to kind of walk that fine line where we are sort of the real essence of the country. We're not the biggest city, but we're big cities. And we have one foot in that sort of like Midwestern can-do attitude. And then one foot in, being a little bit more metropolitan and cosmopolitan, And so so I get that. Like you want to, in my limited experience of being in Japan, going to Osaka and then going to Nara and going to Kyoto. Yeah. every city, even though we think of Japan as a, a singular sort of entity, as a country, no, every city feels different. There's
Yeah.
definitely a different, tactile experience if you go to Nagoya or if you go to Sapporo or whatnot. So yes. And I think the big cities, they just become so international, metropolitan.
Yeah.
You,
They
you miss
have.
a little bit of that pure essence of what a country is.
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh.
reiterating what you just said. I don't know.
Sorry, Maya, go ahead.
No, that's
No, I
all right.
wanted to
I'm
say
going.
yes. That's my experience as well. I haven't. I mean, my first 3 years were in Tokyo, of course, but then we moved to Sapporo, and then even it is a city, even though it is a city, right? It was still a very good place to be because it's very different. But the best things that I have, or the best experiences I have always been either in Shizuoka, or in Akita, or in Aomori, or in Sendai, for example, the Miyagi prefecture, and then further down, southwest, and so on. So I really agree with you. And if it is possible, when you come here and you have a job, if you can make a living there, or you already don't have to worry about, making a living, yeah, it's really a good thing to be in the countryside. And thank you so very much for sharing that, Ron,
Yeah.
because that's where you meet the real people.
Yeah. And even further than that, the thing, if you have to come to Tokyo, you can get in that English bubble where all your
Oh,
friends,
yeah. Oh,
your job
absolutely.
mates are all speaking
Yes.
English. And the train drivers have heard so much English, they can speak, they know every problem, how to answer, but you can't have a long conversation with them.
Right.
What are you thinking about this merger of this company? But besides those things, I mean,
Yeah.
because they hear English all the time. Another thing I think I would kind of stress for people if they're stuck in Tokyo or they just happen to land here is volunteering. I run a volunteer on Saturdays for the homeless, and I see a different side of Japan. A lot of even Japanese have said, I don't see the homeless. I didn't know they were in the parks. And,
Mm.
you have to kind of be purposeful in what you're doing. And volunteering could be with the homeless. 2 weeks ago, we helped put up some lights at a church. Even those kind of things. How do they prepare? How do they put
Yeah.
everything together? And even going, a lot of communities are set up to help foreigners. Usually it's like for $5, but local people will help you learn English. Every ward is set up like that in Tokyo. That local volunteers will help you learn Japanese. And it's a really great opportunity. There's so many things, like from volunteering to studying for free. The volunteering is really good because you have an opportunity to just meet people you don't normally meet. You can use Meetup, but there's lots of volunteers. It's just Japan's system is putting up posts locally, not like the system we might have in the West and Europe. It's a big Yahoo to get the information out there. It's just I think another thing that people have to consider is to see Japan through the eyes the Japanese see it. So, like, for example, you
Yeah.
take off your American eyes, you take off
Mhm.
your Canadian eyes. And I think one time I laughed so hard was somebody said, I'm going to pay for something, but I want the change in American dollars. And they just really thought, like, I don't want to go in exchange. I want everything catered to me. And if we do that, you're just going to have a certain type of experience.
Right.
But if you
Yeah.
open your eyes, try to find out how are the locals paying for things? What is PayPay? What is Apple Pay here?
Yeah.
You can learn a lot. And I think I forgot his name. He's a chef. He goes around the world and he tours cuisines. He kind of died 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
Oh,
He's
yes.
actually out of
The
Chicago.
Canadian. Yeah. Oh, no,
Yeah.
he's Chicagoan.
He had a show. I think he might have been Canadian, but
I'm trying to
his
think of it. It's
show.
Anthony Bourdain because he was New York.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Oh, I thought, yeah, okay. I didn't know he was from
Um,
Chicago. I thought he was New York. I always associated with New York. I mean,
he's somewhere. He's from somewhere, but
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
He's great. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
as far as food's concerned, he said actually you can visit Japan for 1 week, stay in Shinjuku, and you can try cuisines from chefs that cooks that have the heart of what they do. And just walking around, you can see, if you see them making in front of you, and the heart of the pride in their food and their cuisine is you could sample a lot of Japan's cuisine, just stay in 1 week in Shinjuku. And he did that on one of his trips. And yeah, he's just a fascinating guy, and his appreciation for Japanese food is really good. But I think if you go to the countryside, like we were in Sapporo this year,
Mhm.
and Sapporo is like a big, big city. And we went to Asahiyama, I think, near the zoo. And
Mm.
just as you're going to these smaller cities, it changes
Yeah.
dramatically.
Yeah.
It's like a fortress city or something. And then you go to these other towns, and this is the real heart of like people. You get to see them, and people like, I think we saw this guy, we wanted to ask help, and he had this scowl on his face. But as soon as we asked for help, he opened up. He was just so wonderful. People are there to help people. It's a outside Tokyo countryside mentality. They're there to help you because they're brought up like that, to have manners, to look
Yes.
after people. You can get it in
Yeah.
Tokyo, but
Yeah.
it's wonderful outside.
I was gonna say, because like when I look at your earlier works, getting
Yeah.
into your directing, when I think of like films like 614 and Order 9088, you seem to have always had a community sort of like perspective. Obviously, you're working in a homeless shelter, you're doing these things for the community. That's something that's like, we can talk a little bit about 614 and obviously Order 9088, which is a documentary about, for those who don't know, it's a documentary about the incarceration of Japanese Americans and Japanese Canadians, which in some ways our guest from a month ago, Megumi Nishikura, kind of like
Yeah, I've seen something
talked a
about.
little bit about that as well, but from a different perspective. So was that something that you felt like, were you always community oriented, or was that something you obtained over time?
Yeah, 614 is a really unusual documentary. It started with my dad, actually.
Hmm.
I asked him, what's your problem with church? And he said, well, my aunt and my grandmother were mistreated by the Salvation Army. So as curious as I was, I went over and asked them, I wanted to ask, like, why wasn't my aunt and grandmother recognized they were volunteers. And so I went over and talked to them, and what turned out to be just the kind of information gathering turned into a film, because I realized like these guys were doing something groundbreaking, and no, the story wasn't being told, and I stumbled into it by my curiosity, and I think that's natural for documentaries and
Right.
documentary filmmakers. Like, I have a question: why weren't they treated fairly? And what ended up being my real question is, how are these wonderful people helping to rebuild their community through
Yeah.
unusual techniques? And 614 is just so unique because the guy that I interviewed, him and his wife went to Russia originally to help share I guess, the gospel. And Russia kicked them out because they were too effective after 10 years. Too many people wanted to ask. And I think they were worried that the revolution would start, like where people would ask too many questions. So
Mm.
they dedicated their lives to helping Russian people. But again, after 10 years, they got their visa revoked. They brought the same technique to Canada and went into troubled neighborhoods. And their approach, simplicity, in simple terms, is they would live in the community they were helping. And they said other people would come in each week and they parachute in. Hey, we're here to save the day in your troubled community. And they had a different approach. They said, why don't we live in that community so people can see us daily and learn to trust us? So when we reach
Right.
out to them,
Mm.
we're at the same supermarkets, we're at the same laundromats, we're buying the same cereals. I thought his approach was fascinating, but at the same time, I wanted to get a different position. What about people who didn't have the pleasant opportunity to hear about these people in the same area? It's called Regent's Park. It's kind of a um, subsidized housing area that I did another documentary on, called Phases of Our Lives. So I seem to come back to the same themes of social commentary, looking after people that don't have a voice. And again, with this documentary, I try to make a balance. They're doing great work, but how about people that aren't on that receiving end? So we talk to crack dealers. Um, we talk to people who were slighted or saw the bad behavior of people in the religious community. And we put those two films together, those two ideas together in a film. So that became 614. And it seemed so powerful when I showed it back to Jeff. His name is Jeff too. That he said, can I use this as a training video? Because it shows when they aren't successful. It shows the struggle their workers have. And people came from Manchester and Melbourne to train under him how to bring community back together. And I just found it fascinating. I felt very privileged that I could follow him. And, it was really nice. And it just opened up my eyes. And I try to show that in the short film. It's like 34 minutes. But yeah, it's just fascinating when you see the curtain lifted up that you can see that. And, and that was a really unique film. The 9088 was actually a mistake title. It was, I think I made a mistake when I named it. It's supposed to be 9066, the title, because that was in order to gather the Japanese people. So before I really integrated with the Japanese community or visitors that came to Canada, I connected with the Japanese who are already here, the Issei, Yonsei, Sensei, the second, third, fourth generations, and what was their story. So I did some research. I interviewed people who were in the camps. The 9066 was a order from the US president to round up the Japanese, and the Canadians also rounded up the Japanese and the Canadians were put into these, I guess they would be called kind of camps. In the US, it was barbed wire. There were fences. There were guards. It was a whole different experience. Mazinar, and there was 10 camps in total in the US, and they were spread out. Some of them, unfortunately, were put in the middle of the desert. But the resilience of the Japanese Americans at that time were so strong. Where they were placed in the desert, they actually were able to change the ground to make it fertile, and they grew vegetables, cabbages, lychees. They made the ground fertile again, and those foods were given to soldiers and other parts of America that were needing vegetables at that time. So it was just resilience that I was able to capture in interviews. And I also went to Los Angeles and talked to their Japanese American National Museum director. And also they have in Little Tokyo, they have another memorial, and these are the soldiers that were drafted in the war. So not only are your parents in a concentration camp, you're forced to fight for what American ideals you believe in. So it was just incredible. I can't judge things. I just film everything, put it together, try to tell the stories from the American version, and talking to those soldiers that were in World War II is quite great. And I think they're called the 2045. It's like their division of engineers that helped in campaigns in like Italy and France, and they actually rescued American soldiers. The engineer group rescued soldiers in Italy in campaigns. And, I'm just hearing them tell their story and trying to tell that story. And it was good success. I partnered up with a lot of organizations, and sometimes it takes 1 to 2 years to get these films done, because you start doing the interview and then it gets longer and longer and longer.
Right.
And at the same time, I was working on a few other documentaries. So literally, I think I had on my plate, there were there's 4 documentaries. You just get this fire. These stories need to be told to people who are non-documentarians. They knew what I was doing. Like every cent I had, every moment I had was spent researching, talking to people, planning, and then people kept giving me interview ideas. Even my parents were involved, and I couldn't get access to somebody because I thought her story and this Regent Park story would be really fascinating. And so my dad talked to her because she had said, absolutely, I'm not going to tell you how I'm secretly helping this community. It's private. And then my dad happened to play bingo with her, and he got involved and he talked to her, and then she was like open doors and even invited me into her house. But when people see your passion to tell stories, they want to get aboard. And again, people are pitching me ideas like, hey, did you ever think about doing a documentary? And I was already overwhelmed with trying to keep afloat.
But I also think it's important that you tell their stories without judgment, because people don't like to be judged, right? And for everybody, the truth is different because their perspective and their experience is different. So they were on different sides of the story, right? The narrative and everything. And I appreciate that you did not judge anybody. You just told their stories the way they were. And I think that, of course, documentaries usually are meant to be so, but of course, sometimes they are not. So we need more people like you creating those documentaries that just tell the story and let, the viewers, let's say, seek it in, or what, pick it up, and feel and live through it.
People are rational. They'll figure out
Yeah.
what was right and wrong. You don't have to
Mm.
necessarily really skew the facts. You just
Indeed.
let them
Yeah.
and hope
Yes.
to tell.
Yeah.
I know, like, because I remember hearing about, when the Japanese and the American concentration camps. And I know part of it was some of them were drafted, and then there were some that was an initiative. Hey, listen, you want to be in this camp? Join the army. And there's that whole story about the 442nd Infantry Regiment,
Yeah,
and the 442, which is, like, I think is the most decorated to this
Yes.
day,
It
even
is.
in
To this
military
day,
history.
it is.
Everyone knows, yeah. And I've always thought, like, if there was, like you always said, what would be my dream movie project would be to do a movie about that. That would be it. Like, I just think right away, you can picture the trailer. You'd see like these German Nazis running around, and then you just go behind the tree and you see a Japanese guy with a gun, and immediately I'm in. I want to know the story, because
Right.
we don't equate that visual together, but yet here it was. And it was just such, and the story is just it's just so beautiful and sad and tragic and unfair. But at the same time,
But
it,
that's,
yeah,
yes, once again, it's well, let's say, the Japanese resilience is
yeah,
there throughout it,
right,
all throughout. Yeah.
right. So,
yeah.
getting into such heavy topics, but you obviously you're a man who, you're not afraid to, you don't shy away from just getting your hands in and let's
Right.
tell this story. So you were doing this, and then you come to Japan, and I
Right.
saw you have like this great, on a lighter topic. You do like the YouTube video. You had like a little YouTube channel, which I enjoyed. Your stuff was showing up on my feed for a while because
Oh,
everything
okay.
Japan shows up my way at
Okay.
some point or
Okay.
another. I remember seeing you
Yay.
before. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I get it, like, because everyone's telling me I need to be doing this, but I get it. It's a real time suck to try to like do your own like
Yeah,
YouTube, like,
true.
but it's fun. I enjoyed it. So you get into this, and we'll start getting into the vertical filmmaking in a second.
Yep.
But like, you took these talents and skills, and you were in Japan. So how did the last few years shape up for you? Like, what is it that led you to this point?
Okay, so I was making documentaries, and then when I came to Japan, I thought I'd put documentaries behind me, but the volunteer work came up. So Fukushima came up, and I was here,
Mm.
and while everyone was like, "What do I do?" I just grabbed my camera. I actually took a photo the first day from the first earthquake. The school I was at, the ceiling plaster came out. I didn't take photos of that, but I took a photo of the office tower at Midtown, which is a humongous tower. Maybe I forgot how many floors, but they evacuated. I've never seen that many people. And we never seen anything like that in Japan. So as much as I promised myself I would stop doing documentaries and get into fiction, because nonfiction, because I was coming to LA a lot to pitch the new ideas I had, but you need to start somewhere. And I think doing documentaries is a start, because you can just pick up your camera if you get the story. But, I definitely did some training in Canada first. But as much as I said I would stop doing documentaries, Fukushima happened. I brought my camera, volunteered, and then we had Kumamoto, also had an
Right.
earthquake. That one I was a little bit more prepared. Both instances I made short films. The Kumamoto is one that has been able to play at some festivals. I usually keep a lot of things that's easier to distribute, which is Film Freeway, and so I put this film together for Kumamoto. This was just basically asking volunteers why they volunteer, examining the places, looking at what it was like. It was insane. Like, we'd go down the streets. This is in Fukushima. When we got to Ishinomaki, we'd go down the streets and everything has been parted, and you can see cars, boats overturned. It definitely looked like an apocalyptic thing. And I tried to take as much video as I can because I was there to volunteer. So in between breaks, I'll take a video. And there was a lot of footage I can take. And we had a lot of car rides. We drove up there. We had to keep our windows up because there was radiation leaks, and we had to pass Fukushima to get to Sendai area. So we had the radiation detector was in our car, so we could see the radiation if it was too bad, we had to turn off the air conditioning on the highway because we didn't want any air coming in our car.
Right.
So going to these disasters, like there was no time to formally set up. Just basically take, just bring your camera out and shoot. And so I captured some good stuff. I had to go back with Kumamoto's documentary and change it because my editor made it look like I had saved Kumamoto. She asked for a narration, a voiceover, but the voiceover is like, we're trying to do this, not I'm trying to do this. So I asked her to go back and please use some of the footage because I want to make sure that everything looks like a group effort. As much as I love to be in the spotlight for 15 minutes, I did not save Kumamoto. I'm a volunteer with volunteers. I can tell my story and then use other people in there, but I just wanted to make sure the story coming out of Kumamoto, even though I stayed for a week, so I kind of dropped. I think at that time I asked my job, who was going to have Golden Week classes. I said, can I not work and not make money? They were like, what? And they said, it's fine. I kind of explained what I was doing and they said, you can do it. Hopped on a plane. We got some nice preferential treatment on a Jetstar because as soon as they heard you're actually going to the disaster, and they waived the luggage fee. And it was really nice. We slept on floors in a church, in a YMCA. And, a lot of volunteers came in, but because they were in there for 1 or 2 days and I stayed the week, I was able to document different experiences and different places we were sent to. And it was a labor of love. So yeah, that was kind of my drawback. And I'm trying to always stay out of documentaries and get to short films like this vertical evolution that I see coming. I said I was from the future, but
we're catching up to present day. We're getting to the future. We're getting close. We're getting close.
Slowly. But yeah, so also in Japan, I do have a talent or a skill set, in front of the camera. So I was finding, how can I make money here besides working, the regular teaching job? It looked like in front of the camera. And I joke with my friends, I get to play Americans quite a lot, like American detectives. Seems to be like my bread and butter last few years, where I'm Detective Allen on NHK and I'm the other detective on Fuji TV. And so my friends are tuning in, always this detective look. I'm answering phones because I was in Connecticut at that time for that, I think for Asahi TV. So it's been a lot of fun to be an American, but to make money.
Are there clips on YouTube? I gotta ask.
I can send it to you.
You got to. Well, you know what? When we post this, because we're recording, this is one of the nice things since we're recording the show. We'll make sure we post these in the feed to hype this up. So we'll make sure we want to see.
Yeah,
definitely. I have to see it. I think it'd be just amazing.
Yeah, the Detective Allen is a lot of fun. And, it's just me answering the phone, a really serious thing. They're trying to catch a killer, and our detective in Connecticut, we're very close to catching this killer, and. I answer the phone and I got my voice. I have to always remember I'm never going to hear my voice. It's always a Japanese person. And so that's the thing. And so here in Japan, I've been playing a lot of actors, and it's just so fun. How did the Japanese view overseas? And then I think one of the last ones with NHK, I was playing a sheriff that discovered an unusual object, a UFO, and then I relate it to another actor who's also playing a detective. And, I got these, like, all my friends can remember all these monstrous poses, like, hey, it's going all this way. It doesn't matter my voice because it's going to get dubbed out anyway. So, and
do you speak Japanese?
Not well. I mean, I can do fake Japanese.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say because I didn't know if you could speak fluent, they still dub you out anyway. I don't know if that's how it works or not.
Well, yeah, how it works here is you do your lines, and literally we were going to Chiba to shoot, and I said, hey, nobody gave my lines, and he gave me the lines, and the whole thing is 35 pages, and so the key behind the scenes for actors when you're doing these recreation dramas, Saigon dramas, is you just make sure your voice is moving and you have the face expression of that scene. So if I was playing another homeless person, which was my biggest thing to do on TV, because volunteering with the homeless, and then I got to play one, and I'll send you that clip because that's my But you know, I was looking after my friend, and I just had to have the face expression of that moment, and the actor's going to watch me and try to talk when I'm supposed to talk. So one girl, I think she spoke in Russian. She didn't speak English the entire set. She just spoke in Russian, and she did her lines in Russian. It was in English or in Japanese, but she just spoke in Russian because that's her natural face expression. The other guy did his in English. On set, it looks like chaos. What are they talking about? But that's the style here. And so here in Japan, I've been finding a lot of work playing Americans, just being that foreign voice for Japanese shows. And once you get the flow of that, I think makes life easier. If you speak Japanese, it puts the directors and everybody at ease because they can work with you. But a lot of people I found, cast and crew, especially crew, a lot of crew, they've spent time overseas in Chicago, in New York. They come back. They speak Japanese in the cruise, but suddenly they turn to you. Oh, the director wants you to move over there, and he has like an American accent, and yeah, it's all sprinkled in a lot of crews, so they're easy to work with. It's just the biggest problem here is the yen. You come here, it's really expensive here.
Yeah.
So, and there's no tax incentives, and that is making everyone's locations to London work because they're giving you a 30% tax incentive. Japan has this. They're trying to work on co-productions, but pretty much like Tarantino's and these guys like Rental Family, they're coming with their crews already stocked. They know what they want to do. They're just getting local people to kind of do the key roles. And, you know, it's something that could be worked on, and it has to be worked on. And hopefully that'll lead us to the need for vertical films to answer that.
I love how we're just leading right into this. You know what you're doing. I was going to say, I feel like you know a little bit about what's going on, because I think, you know, and it's funny because I don't know what the title of this thing is going to be yet because we're doing this out of order. And but vertically, speaking, you know, it was fascinating to me. But I mean, your story is fascinating, first of all. I think a lot of people, when they watch our show, they want to know how you got there in the first place. I think that's something that's just very appealing. And also, too, it helps explain why you're here today. So now we get into the future. So we know your past. In the past, you know, past dictates future. So
that's right.
We know, you did documentaries. You've had a lot of fun being in front of the camera in these different roles. So how did you discover vertical filmmaking? Like when did this happen for you?
Right. Actually, I think vertical films have been happening already. If we go back to the acronyms and words like web series, that's actually vertical filming. But just like Microsoft, when they released their film, everything's about timing. So Microsoft released their phone, but the timing and the marketing didn't work. So when vertical films came out, it came out not of an idea, it came out of proof. And that proof came from China. China had vertical films take off with that concept, making these over dramatic short films that people are watching on their phones. So that was kind of the proof of concept proved. And then slowly out of China, that started getting picked up in Europe. It started getting picked up in other countries. And people saw, you know, the proof is in the pudding. It's kind of like the reason they make, you know, second and third versions of films. You know, they go back and revisit films and try to, you know, like Running Man recently that just came out, you know, and Predator films. They just go back and revisit it. But with the case of vertical films and iPhone came out the right time, and Microsoft's release didn't come out at the right time, and that's why iPhone took off. It was just the right place, right time. So my friends in LA are telling me that people are surviving by vertical films, and the SAG, the Actors Union, just ratified an agreement quickly with vertical films to say this counts as acting. And there probably will be a category close to the Oscars. They might have it because if they want to keep the momentum, like studios from Netflix to Fox, 200 projects are already slated for vertical films. So they're not just thinking about it in Hollywood, they're doing it. Then we come to Japan. Japan is not the forefront of filmmaking. Like they kind of like see what's going on first, and it's a smart play. But I'm talking, like, as I said, I'm from the future. If film is going to survive here, one of the ideas they have to entertain is bringing in vertical films they do have a few platforms right now, and there's a kind of structure that you need to follow. But definitely, I think it's the future, and you're going to have to be able to make your content that can fit on a 16:9 screen and be able to be seen. And people are going to not just make a film in parts, but one that has a hook at the end of 1 minute or 2 or 3 minutes into the next one, into the next one. And you should be able to get these for free. And I think the format of filmmaking, especially for indies, should change a little bit to vertical films, because you can make a vertical film, a 5-part series, to kind of introduce your indie film. There's no reason that you can't figure out a new format or completely get your indie film and chop it down into 20 bite-sized pieces, because those are be able to sell on a platform you can create. So you don't have to go through the studios. It's a complete industry change where you can actually create your own platform. It's very easy to do. Even could be created by platforms like Base 44. They can create your entire like structure where you can have the app already created for you and also show you how to collect money. But basically, you make your own film, you give it away for free, 5 to 10 episodes, people start to pay for it. And I really see it as a new way of not only making films, but where indie filmmakers can actually make money instead of waiting until they make a deal with distributors. Be your own distributor, be your own creator. And actors will love it because they can come in for a few episodes and go out for a few episodes.
Right.
But you can film something with right planning. You can film probably 20 episodes over a weekend. And I mean, even more once you get the rhythm of what you're doing, because everything you're doing is going to be self-contained in a small space. It's kind of the same rules for the 48-hour film challenge.
I've got a question. So I'm going to ask the dumb person question here for a moment, but I think I know the answer. So when we talk right away about vertical films, you're talking about literally a film that is structured vertically on a phone, because a lot of people watch movies on their phone. They just turn it horizontal to watch the film. So you're literally talking about narrative content that stands up. That's a 16:9 ratio, but up. So, and that's technically a vertical film. So we're not even talking about films that are square or anything like that. You're literally talking about that. So my question right off the bat is, okay, so you're going to make a vertical film. Has there been tests to show? Because I think, I come from a film background, so I'm used to horizontal to tell the story. And I think a step back here, I'm going to Tarantino this a little bit to something. That was a conversation I was having with Kanako Hori, another friend of the show. And she asked me, and she goes, in the end, about being an artist. She says, how do you do it? You paint, you drew, you movies, you do all stuff. I said, well, in the end, you have a square. You have a box of some sort, and you're putting something in the box that's interesting. Whether that's a cartoon, whether that's a painting, whether that's a movie, whatever, is that you're filling a frame up with some interesting content. And how that goes about is depending on your medium. So thinking about this, because obviously movies started from a 4:3, the old movies, and then they went widescreen because people had television sets and they had to compete. So now we're doing this. Is there a learning curve? Is it by demographic, like Gen X doesn't know how to do this? Or are people just adapting to vertical films, thinking, oh, okay, I can get into the drama with this, no problem?
Well, to answer that, I think
it's a big question.
I think there is a learning curve, and I'm trying to see if there's a formula like where I can put out. But pretty much like what I've done with small short films, I just gather a crew together. I gather actors. We do table reads. We try to use the same methods we used before to make films, but we inform people the acting style has to be different. Our genres are limited. We can't do big action sequences as much as we want to do dramatic overacting. I guess that's the key. Some of the boundaries and the ways that you're going to do vertical films are going to be changing. Literally, I mean, I kind of took some people when I wanted to make some short films and train people. I just grabbed people who wanted to with their cameras in Tokyo. I said, I have a seminar how to use your camera. And people came out to it because we showed different filming techniques, and I brought some actors, and we had a location, which was Harajuku. And of course, I wanted to shoot around the park, but of course it rained only on that day that I brought everyone to this one-day seminar. So we just went into the mall that was kind of in and out, and I had them go up and down the stairs and stuff. So that way, as a group, we were learning together, and we ran 4 seminars, and that was just like pick up your camera. And so some people literally showed up with their iPhone, and one guy, he had this like rig, like something I can't afford, and he showed up the first day because he was curious too how to shoot. So I
Right.
have this type of seminar again, and I say, we got vertical films. You want to learn by doing. And I did also have a Tarantino poster in there to just say, we're going to be making these kind of films that are shocking, something, challenging the platform as it is, the way it's presented. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm so curious now. How do you market? Where do you market these
Yeah.
seminars? Because I would love to join.
Thank you.
I am not in the film industry, but I would love to know how to use some of those techniques, to film my daughter, for example, or my cats, to make it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, bring
How
your
do
cat.
you, yeah,
So
how
what
do
I
you
did
announce
is,
those?
yeah, I just I kind of strategized almost like the way I came to Japan with the being in the Japanese community. I use the same approach. I should make a technique name, but what I did is before I put everything together, I try to figure out what's the best platform to reach people. And so I decided on Facebook. There's a lot of small niche groups there. So I just posted it and let Facebook's algorithm just reach out. So they
Oh,
grabbed people that I didn't expect, but I just kind of clearly said what we're going to do. You're going to get the camera and learn how to shoot. Here's a price. So I put a price that was like really like, it was like 500 yen or something, or $5 or $10. You're going to learn techniques, and people who didn't want to learn techniques would come because it might be a great way to make friends. And then the other thing I did is the day there's a lot of holidays in Japan, so I picked a holiday that everyone will have off. And the first day there were people waiting for me. I didn't have 100 people, but I mean I had like 12 people, and most of them were strangers. I think one girl, she knew I was going to be doing something, so I told her. But the other 11 people, they just came out of the woodwork, and it was great. We shot that day. It didn't rain, and we did this for 4 sessions. And we went around to some interesting places around Shinjuku, and we just had people walk back and forth. We watched each other's angles to show if it was 2 cameras and how to not be in that 180
mm,
violation degree, and just had a lot of fun. And we just went to McDonald's after and just swapped stories, and people, so I guess every time I make a film, a community is created. And I think with
right. Yeah, yeah.
vertical films, the same thing will happen. Like people are curious about it. Actors that I know, I just try to kind of like get in there. So when I didn't finish a sci-fi film, because my family keeps telling me, don't make sci-fi, because they're really, they hate sci-fi and they really love comedy. They
Mhm.
think, I'm not a funny guy, but they think, stories I like to tell could be funny. But just like getting people together. Every time I've made a film, even the sci-fi thing, people went out after because nobody's creating the community the way I was doing it, and just bring together, have some fun, and like-minded people want to do things together. So in making this next vertical challenge, I think I might have like a seminar or something. I usually will do seminars on the set, but I will tell people what we're doing and kind of instruct the actors separately, and then they'll come. But I think bringing all these people for just to use your camera,
Mm.
but now we're just going to use your phone. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of people have phones, so I think it could be a lot of fun. And there is a film that we didn't get to finish that's like a web series, so I can easily go back and shoot scenes again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a kind of December, needs a rooftop, but it's the problem in Japan was finding the temperature where you weren't melting from the heat, because it was like almost 50 days or 90 days of heat this
Mm.
summer. Trying to get that rooftop was really hard this summer, but maybe the takeoff of vertical films is really helpful. And I think also, when I sent you guys the article, when Hollywood's embracing vertical films, that means it's coming here. It's just what shape and form is it going to come? And if I can control that shape, like I become the vertical master. I don't mind. It's fine. I mean, I'd love studios to kind of look me up and said, hey, like Michael's saying, I saw your thing on here, but yeah, we saw your vertical film series. Great. Are you a subscriber? And then they see the techniques there. So you can probably indie makers and short film people, they can just make their own jobs because studios are going to be looking for people that have the flair for this. And it's the Wild West is the way I think about it.
I was going to say to this point, because what's interesting in many ways, I can kind of see that you're really sort of an incubator right now for this.
Yeah.
And I say this too because I remember many, many years ago in 2009, I did a lecture about Web 3.0 when Web 2.0 was happening.
Yep.
And Microsoft and Apple showed up. By the way, they told me not to tell anybody they were there. You know what? It's been 15 years. And you know what? I should have charged them. Because they got a lot of intel from me that day for free. So just make sure, you charge for this if the big wigs do show up. But in the sense, so getting to the idea of the vertical film, like I'll Tarantino backtrack again.
Yep.
I remember when like the Hobbit movies had come out in 2012 and there was a big deal because they shot those things in 4K, right? And there was going to be this high frame resolution. And what had happened was two things. One, everyone could see the glue on the prosthetics because it was so clear. And two, anytime they had those beautiful rolling hill shots, everybody just buckled in the theater because it was so realistic. You were like on a roller coaster.
Right.
And it made me realize, well, if you're going to do those type of 4K films, maybe not an action movie, raunchy comedy might be a lot funnier for that level of technology because now you're in the room when all this crazy stuff's happening. Or, you know what I mean? Something like Sideways.
Yeah.
Like something like Sideways could be a great film and like that hyper reality. Because now the humor, that weird humor is just in your face. So that being said, you notice two things. One, nobody does that anymore. They don't shoot films in 4K and project them in 4K because it makes people nauseous in theaters. And people have understood that part of what makes cinema alluring is that sort of matte finish, like a painting finish that allows you to get access to the drama, that if it's too realistic, you're watching something, and then it's harder to allow your psychology to fall into the piece. So in vertical filmmaking, I would imagine there's got to be a whole new series of techniques, how you frame. I would imagine like motion, moving, like kind of like Paulo Sorrento in the beginning of The Great Beauty might be a technique where you're like constantly kind of letting the camera sort of flow.
Dolly in, dolly out, follow.
Right. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not there. You're there. But I would imagine that's probably the things that you're establishing right now is the sort of visual language that's going to differentiate vertical filmmaking from horizontal filmmaking.
Yeah. And I think essentially there are no rules. So if I do something, somebody's going to call it that, or because no one knows like what's this technique called. So I'm saying I could just name things like, Ron's technique rule 1, and then people like, wow, Ron's okay, R1, okay, and then his RR's dolly shot. I mean, that's I don't think I'll put myself on any pedestal, but a lot of it you cannot have established ideas because you want some of that rawness to be there, especially if I'm going to be start using DOPs, because a lot of like short films, they take so long to shoot because I'm doing the camera and then, hey, so-and-so's late. What? And so I got a lot of hats on. So the less I'm doing, and just watching everything. And I guess the biggest thing for any of the vertical films, rather than technique, is story. There has to be a kind of story there that people can follow along, and then you strategize it that it can hook to the next one. And it has to be, it's like what's popular now is these over-the-top dramas, like My Billionaire Father.
Right.
I'm pregnant with my billionaire secret boss. And I know you just put people in ridiculous situations, and that's where my family wins, because when they said you should do comedy, we could do comedy, but let's have some fun with it. And there's no but, just like throw the but out and just shoot everything. And if a platform's up, we put up our own platform. If it's called Ron app, so be it. But it might be called more vertical, Lost World Verticals. But when we put up the app, that's another new technique where you become your own distributor. So whatever you put up, you're trying to make your own income from it right away. So I could see NHK sending people out, like they'll send their camera guy down, and I don't care if they steal a technique. I'll pretend I formatted it. It's really good. I'll just laugh. But At the same time, I'm happy as well because it's so much a Wild West situation. I definitely think within 1 or 2 years, but NHK, TBS, Fuji TV, all of these networks are going to have their own vertical formats in some shape or form. Maybe film on demand right now could do it quickly, but there are some places right now doing it. The question is, can you do a rental family style where you have a foreign story hybrided with foreigners? There's a lot of foreigners here that can speak Japanese. I can make an entire vertical film with foreigners only speaking Japanese.
Right.
That's how good the talent is. Could I rewrite the rules? We'll say Tarantino style. We'll call Rontino style.
I don't
Where
know. Ron works good. We're going to close with that, by the
Yeah.
way, how you
Ron
got that.
Ron,
But
yeah.
yeah, but
But
no,
I-
yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I'm
sorry. No, go ahead.
Your
Go ahead.
thought. No, because I was thinking is because right now you talk about the Wild West, because in terms of like vertical filmmaking, it's kind of like when you look at technology, right? When like the original like films, when they were like little like what do they call that? When you literally the old movies when they were little box and you like turn the
Oh,
wheels.
okay. Silent films and stuff.
Yeah, silent films. You always kind of start off with the sensational and the crazy because that's how you get the attention, right? You know, like the Great Train Robbery where the guy shoots at the camera. Like there was always since even just the fact that you have a train robbery as a film, as a silent film, the sensationalism, the crazy billionaire pregnant, whatever. Like that's usually how these new mediums kind of start. They kind of get in, and then you have the sensational content. Or if you look at TikTok videos. The TikTok videos drive me crazy. Maybe I'm just older because a lot of them, it starts with somebody yelling at you. Like, did you know that in 1985? Like, oh God, okay, calm down. Okay, like just stop. All right. Like that's just way too much for me. And you know me, I'm an up guy. But
Sure.
just it feels like when I was on TikTok, it's just one video yelling at me at the same time to try to get my attention because that's where everything goes. That's how the funnel happens. But now we're starting to get into this artisan phase because it starts with you get into that whole like sensationalist phase because we're still learning how to use the technology. And now, like you said, could you do like, how do you engage somebody in Japanese that they see your video and they stop and they look? And there are many ways you can do that that would be not as sensationalist, more endearing, something that just grabs you in a sense that gets under your skin more than just shouts. And I sometimes I think because Japanese culture, the way it is in a great position to be able to execute this type of creativity.
Yeah. I think because I talk to a lot of young people in the university age, so some of my projects I would do with them is I give them my camera and just say, go shoot something. You could shoot it normally how you can shoot it and then just vertically change it later. So that is still possible. You don't have to get rid of your cameras, but the lowest end of it, you could bring your own camera and shoot it, put it on your own platform and start making money. You could create your own, you're
Right.
changing the rules because the model in every country has a distributor, has a network platform. But if you're your own platform and your own distributor and you can bypass those people, it's a threat to them. So definitely if I put up a 10-part series, learn vertical films, and it gets some, just even a little bit of buzz, I definitely could see, executives calling me in for meetings and stuff. And, hey, we want to partner with you. And that's just from getting the attention. The other flip side is train as many people as I can to tell their stories. Let's see if there's no exact way to do this because a young person's story might be different from, a person here, a foreigner who's making a film. It just depends on their level of understanding of the culture. But let's say there are no rules. They can just keep telling new and different stories with each person having their own approach. It doesn't have to be drama. It doesn't have to be somebody has a panache for action. Why not make a vertical film with action, even though the rules say you shouldn't do it? But who cares about the rules? Just like
Yeah.
There
Rules
might
are
be a way to do it.
broken.
Right. There might
Yes.
be a way to do it. And I was going to say, but before I get to our last question for you, I do remember when I was in Osaka and I was recording, trailer footage for my film From Chicago to Osaka, which sometime between now and 2035 I'm going to make. I'm working on it, right? But I remember thinking that when I was capturing the footage that I needed to capture it for both horizontal and vertical. because I did find that the trailer footage that I got, it looked, when it presents certain things look better this way, vertical, and other
Yeah.
ways, horizontal. So it's just fascinating to say that you're already on the right track, because I was already conscientiously thinking of that, how I need to record this footage. And fun fact, how you do it is you shoot in like 6K resolution, because then you can adjust and sample your screen without losing. That's the first thing right off the bat. But you're always kind of giving yourself more space, so then you can zoom accordingly when you're cutting the footage. And I think that's just one of many things that people are going to be considering here on out.
There's going to be a lot of new techniques. I just think once, pretend I do a 10-part workshop where people can do it, but I'd probably make a film within that workshop that everyone can be a part of. And that's that collaborative effort, I think, is really a lot of fun. And I don't know who would come out. I'd probably reach out to in 2 ways, like complete strangers that I did last time. And we were able to, I only stopped because I got busy with some other things, but that could, I was just amazed that some people kept coming to it. I even increased the price. I went from $5 to $10, and I went.
Oh man, you're breaking the bank.
$25.
There you go. Yeah, that's a lot of money there.
4 hours, but there could be no reason that foreigners couldn't come here on a vacation. Like, hey, I'm gonna go join that vertical film camp.
Yeah,
while I'm here, and I can film a story of Japan, but then go back home and make it.
You get your own. Yeah, you get your own little story. That's the best part. And you learn how to do it.
Like, something unique, and But I think empowering as many people as possible. I want to see what it would be like with an all-woman crew. What stories would they tell? I'm not saying they're good or bad. I would love to have them make their own voice, a younger voice. If I gave it to kids under 15 and said, I want you to make a film, I'm going to give you the techniques how to do it. You got a film, right? Well, let's put it in a rig. Let's show you some techniques, and probably a half-day seminar. Kids could come up with something and just keep putting this on my platform, and and
right.
And then we're all learning how to do this together.
We're learning together, and and then people talking about what they learned, what they didn't know, and then that could also feed into the vertical style. And I think it's also just creating a community, and there's lots of opportunities. I think already there's lots of networking events, but I want one where people are bringing the films they made, not just there's always different ones. There's some online and stuff, but I like that in-person one, where kids can make a film, women only can make a film, and just people that know nothing will just come and try to learn, and they just like that community. So,
well, Maya will probably be joining in one of your films. I'm not going to speak on her behalf. She's going to jump on this soon.
Yes,
no problem.
Before we go, how Ron Reid Jr. becomes Ron? How did this happen? Where did the nickname come from? You got to ask.
So actually, I have a number of nicknames, but Ron, that one was a mistake that happened on my registration for Yahoo, and I put Ron, and I thought they asked me twice. I think it was they put your first and last name, so I put Ron twice and didn't realize that's first and last name, and they put it as Ron as my full name, and people started calling me Ron after I sent emails. It was more prevalent in those days. Hey, Ron. Hey, Ron. And people kept addressing me Ron. I was like, what's going on? And then I traced everything back, and it turned out that I had registered it as Ron, my first name, and Ron as my last name. And then people just started calling me, and it's endearing.
It works.
Yeah.
Do you get you do Ron jokes?
No,
you don't. I guess we're too old.
We wouldn't get that joke.
No, you do Ron. Yeah, nobody does. I don't know. That was a bad joke. I don't know. I'm showing my age. You're talking about Yahoo, and I'm talking about songs from the 50s. I think on that note. Ron Reid Jr., it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for everybody listening, I don't know what we're doing for our Christmas show, but we'll let everybody know. So thanks for listening. This has been Japan Expert Insights. See you in 2 weeks.
See you then. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.